Hello, everyone. I am back with another episode of our favorite crypto podcast, the Inside Crypto podcast, of course, where we talk about all the index tokens and news for the constituents. And today we are back with an episode of Last Week in DeFi. The previous week, we did an episode of Last Week in Polygon. And then next week, we're going to do Last Week in Soli because we launched our Soli token this week and it has been fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for supporting us. This is not a Soli episode, though. So today we're going to talk about all the tokens that are in the DeFi index. If you haven't had a chance, we have launched a new 𝕰𝕤𝕤 dashboard, a tokens dashboard. So you can have a look here. It's got the price, it's got everything in like very easy. You just click and it'll take you down to where you want to go. So you don't have to sort of scroll through everything. You can go where you want to go. So just to remind everyone, these are the tokens in our DFI index. This is the methodology. This is the token contract address. This is the rebalanced history and the IPFS hash. This is about governance. Social links on the bottom. Social links are also on the top as well, I believe. And as usual, with any episode where we talk about one of our index tokens, we're going to talk about price history. This is going back 1 week, right? Because 1 week is the time that I chose for some reason. And starting on February 4th, about 5 p.m. GMT, right? DFI was about $2.07. It goes up to a peak a few days, a day later to $2.09. Then we have a lot of horizontal action. It ends off the peak of this week on the 8th of February at 1 p.m. GMT at $3.18. Comes down a little bit. We have a lot more horizontal action. On February 10th, we're about $3.03. And we come all the way down a little bit. And we end off pretty much today, $2.87 at 3 p.m. So that is DFI. Interesting things going on in the market. Ethereum, Soli, of course, Solana, Polygon, but today we're focusing on Ethereum. So the first token we're going to talk about today is the Graph. And the Graph just announced the gaming subgraph has migrated to the Graph network. And Nifty League is a community-led game studio known for its Nifty Smashes NFT infusing fighting game. In-game NFT data is fetched using Nifty League's subgraph in a decentralized way. And they talk about it here in the thread. This talks about the smashes, about accessing the data. It talks about the graph and subgraphs. It's a pretty interesting read if you're not familiar with the graph. Again, we did an episode on the graph where one of our researchers, Ellie, talked about it, and it was fascinating to listen to. So let's look at Nifty League. Let's look at their subgraph, because the graph is very similar to Chainlink and you can explore subgraphs. There's the subgraph ID over here. There's an overview of the fees, right? The curation. There's an overview of the indexes themselves, right? These are the people who are, indexing the data, and for indexing, they get rewards. And then there's the rewards cut and members since. The curators as well are the same as the indexes. And there's the playground, which is the contract and ID stuff. I'm not exactly sure what this is, but this is, again, it is very open. It's very cool. It shows the current progress 100% in terms of indexing, current block, final block. So Nifty League looks like a really cool game, community-led game as well. There's a whole bunch of news surrounding them. They are thinking of becoming a DAO and becoming a first sort of like game studio owned by everybody, which would be really, really cool. Actually, seeing this news, right, I might have to have a look at this and see how to get in on a Nifty League. Anyway, let's move on to Loop. And Loopring's big news, right, is over 20K smart wallet users now securing their funds with social recovery with no single point of failure, right? That's the beautiful part of crypto, right? Is there's no single point of failure where something happens and because this happened at this point, everything fails. So Loopring, as you can see, right, going back about 2 years ago, right, it sort of has like, it's not a big uptick, and then all of a sudden last year you have this huge uptick from about, looks like 6 or 7K users of Loopring. It goes all the way up to 20K users, maybe even almost 21K users, which is fantastic. Now, if you guys don't know what Loopring is, we've talked about it in a previous episode, and I did not want to make this episode too long. The point of Last Week in DeFi, or any of our Last Week in blah blah token series, is so that you guys get all the news about the constituents, so that if you are interested, if you are a holder, you know what's happening with the things that you're holding, or by proxy anyway. And that's it for Loopring. Next, we're going to move on to DeFi's Aave. DeFi's Aave launches Web3 social media platform 𝕤𝕤. We talked about that on the podcast as well. We said that 𝕤𝕤 was something that Aave announced last year when they had their event. They didn't announce 𝕤𝕤, but they were looking into doing a Web3 social media platform. It says composability will be a key feature of the new offering. And there it is, right? 2049. I don't know what that actually says. London. And that guy's got cool hair over there. This is on CoinDesk, of course. It says after months of teasing, they announced it. Aave founder Stani Kolochov announced the launch of 𝕤𝕤. And we're going to look at the 𝕤𝕤 webpage just now. Comes at a time when permissionless social media platforms are once again a hot topic debate. Over the weekend, Ethereum name service core member Brantley Milligan was removed. Social media, of course, a big issue. And let's look at 𝕤𝕤 protocol. Building a social network is hard. 𝕤𝕤 protocol makes it easy. 𝕤𝕤 protocol is a composable and decentralized social graph ready for you to build on so you can focus on creating an experience, not scaling your users, right? Because if you look at Facebook, if you look at YouTube, which is, I guess, not kind of a social media platform, that how these guys make money is by scaling. Or like Facebook makes tons of money through advertising because it has billions of users, right? Build a better social platform. 𝕤𝕤 protocol is user owned, right? That's the beautiful part about Web3, right? It's that you own some part of this, right? Each application using 𝕤𝕤 benefits the whole ecosystem, turning the zero-sum game into a collaborative one. Dig into the key functions. Create a profile, mirror, collect, follow, comment, post. 𝕤𝕤, I like that. Native soul. Discover Web3 native social media. Soak up the sun. I think this is fantastic. The problem with like any social media, be it WhatsApp, be it Facebook, be it Snapchat, be it Line, is like, I'm a big fan of Line, which is used out here in Asia, right? The problem with Line, though, is that nobody else uses it outside of Asia, despite it having fantastic cartoons and characters and stickers. WhatsApp is the same. WhatsApp not a primary protocol here. WhatsApp is big pretty much in the rest of the world, though in America, people use iMessage, which is like a big messaging system in the States. And going back to Facebook as well, right? Facebook is a fantastic platform. I was one of the early Facebook users when I was living in Massachusetts in the early 2000s. So I've been a Facebook user for a good almost 20 years or so. And Facebook's grown a lot, and lots of people still use Facebook. Lots of my former students, my mom uses it, my dad used it. But the problem with Facebook is now, Facebook has advertising issues. Facebook has social responsibility issues. Facebook sort of targets you in a way and sort of nudges you in certain ways, and they're not the most responsible company. But, despite that, people saying, cancel Facebook, I cancel my Facebook account. We couldn't, even if you cancel your Facebook account, you still have to use the Facebook because the majority of the people on there, friends, family, aunts, uncles, coworkers, and I don't see 𝕤𝕤 protocol taking off unless a majority of people are going to get on there. Maybe they can do it. That would be great, but I'm not sure if that is actually going to be an experience or not. Let's move on to another Atomic Wallet. Is not something we're talking about. We are talking about AMP. So again, in this episode, I'm not going to be talking about the cryptocurrencies themselves or the constituents of our DFI token, but AMP token is finally available on Atomic Wallet. Atomic Wallet is a validator, is a staker. It is something I use, which I thought was really interesting. Now, AMP does not offer staking at the moment, but I think now that they're listed on Atomic Wallet, they could be staking of AMP there. I use Atomic Wallet to stake VET, and I use it to stake ADA as well. But this is just another one of those sort of all-in-one solutions, very similar to Nexo, very similar to Volt. We looked into that as well, where you have like a majority of your crypto in one place. It's relatively safe. Again, not financial advice. You get some interest on it, better than what you'd get in the bank. And you can sort of relatively rely on this app to get things done for you. And as a user of Atomic Wallet, oh, it says adoption. Thank you for both. CZ mentions this as well. The late John McAfee. But yeah, Atomic Wallet, I use it. It's pretty cool. I wish they had two-factor authentication, but they do not. They have a password, and it's relatively easy because I forgot my password. It was relatively easy to recover, but very cool. Easy interface, easy to understand, and definitely a wallet. I'm not going to recommend anything, but I have experience with it. I use it as one of my not many, but a few crypto wallets, and definitely something to think about if you have Aave token. Let's move on to Chainlink. So Chainlink beats Ethereum's development activity, but social sentiments. Now, this is another one of those sort of like financial prediction articles or financial sentiment articles. This mentions that Chainlink has a lot of developer activity going around. So Chainlink being implemented in various places, being integrated, right? Chainlink is an oracle. Again, go back on previous podcasts, you hear our researcher Karim talk about it. And so Chainlink does very, very well. And I think a lot of protocols have this sort of are developing at a higher pace than, or a faster pace than what Ethereum is doing. The problem is you need to have that social sentiment. And because Ethereum is attached to NFTs and especially OpenSea and a bunch of other places and mining, Ethereum is the top earner for miners, like a lot of people, including myself. And that's an issue. So social sentiment, and we've had Red Sea Crypto on the podcast as well. They talked about social sentiment and how it plays a big role in price movement. Could be up, it could be down. So Red Sea, if you don't know who they are, we interviewed the founder Memphis, and he talked about how in their prediction platform with AI, with taking in feeds from Facebook, Twitter, a bunch of other places, they're able to sort of accurately predict when crypto is going to go up or down and beat market prices by sometimes like up to 20%, because socially getting alerted first that people are interested in X crypto and then buying in early and then prices going up, which is cool, right? Fantastic. Now, that's really cool. It's just unfortunate that Chainlink does a lot of the technical stuff, but they're forgetting about the social stuff, which sort of defines a lot of protocols in terms of price action. Shiba Inu is a good example, though it's a meme coin, I know, but going back to Ethereum, going back to Solana, and again, Solana and NFTs, and that is Chainlink. Next, we're moving on to Curve. So it says low gas curve convex leverage farming coming very soon to Gearbox protocol. Curve V2 pools and L2 solutions or layer 2 solutions, so less gas cost. And one of the downsides of Curve for people like me, despite having some ETH, is that I don't want to spend my ETH on gas fees. So it says Curve emissions decline every August by 15%. That's pretty significant. Income producing assets CRV and CVX become more scarce while the capital chasing it continues to go up. So these are all very positive signs. If you are in the Curve ecosystem, right, when supply goes down and demand goes up, right, that usually means price goes up. Switching to L2 could bring a lot more people in, especially like me as well, because there are a lot of people who don't do stuff on Ethereum. I'm doing NFT stuff on Solana now just because of the cost. I would like to do NFT stuff on Ethereum, but it's just not fun, not cool. NFTs also require a lot of time, which is another story altogether. And that is Curve. Let's move on to UniSwap. So DFI has a lot of stuff in it, which is why this show is extra long. So what I want to talk about with UniSwap, UniSwap has started doing developer office hours. So if you are not a streamer or YouTuber or content creator, you wouldn't know that office hours is sort of like a thing that have taken place, at least again, in my experience, it could be earlier in the last sort of 4 to 5 years, where organizations or companies sort of live stream office hours and they take questions from people who are watching them. So like while they're working, they take questions. They could be doing spreadsheets or editing audio. On my other podcast, I have a friend, and when he edits our podcast, he does office hours. So while he's editing, people come and ask him audio editing questions and what does this do? What's happening with our show? That sort of stuff. So this could be really cool to talk to somebody, you know, in Uniswap development and about analytics. And this guy's talking about doing analytics, of course. It's a cool way to interact with someone on a one-to-one basis. And office hours for a lot of places don't tend to be huge. Like you're not talking about 100 people or 200 people, maybe 50, 60, 70, depending on how popular something is. So maybe you're into programming, you're into swapping or crypto. And, you know, they talk about on-chain data as well. You definitely should tune into Uniswap and see what their office hours are like. You can actually listen to the recording as well. And let's move on to Maker. So now, Maker is having an event very, very soon, February 16th as well. It's called Divinity, which I thought was very cool because Maker is the creator of the DAI stablecoin. So it's through Eventbrite, and we're going to look at the site just now. So if you're in Denver, Colorado, right? So in America, you might want to think up about hitting up this event. They just said they released more tickets. So if you didn't get tickets and you want to go and you're somewhere close to Denver, Colorado, right, there's the address over there, 1160 Lincoln Street, Denver, Colorado. You have tickets and you have a chance to go. Of course, I'm in Taiwan. It's impossible for me to go to Denver, Colorado. There's what's happening. Miss Monique has come. I remember she's a YouTube DJ. I think I've seen her before. And it says join the OGs, right, of DeFi and the world-class DJs to celebrate in Denver. Also be aware, I'm not encouraging anything. You need to be aware of COVID restrictions and that sort of stuff. But sure, I mean, go meet the people behind Maker and Die and listen to some good music. That's really cool. And the last thing I want to mention, right? So I'm doing this podcast today because, as you know, Pico launched on Bitmart, but we are also launching DFI on Bitmart in about 5.5 hours. So if you're listening to this before 12 a.m. Taiwanese time or 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on February 11th, and you want to get into DFI and you want to trade on Bitmart, I would definitely suggest to do that because it's cool, right? Not financial advice. You can have a look, decide if you want to buy or don't buy. But yeah, we're expanding DFI. So if you're a DFI token holder, we're bringing more people into the ecosystem, which is good, right? Guys, that is it. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I will be back next week with a Soli episode and then back to Polygon the week after that. I'm going to try and get an interview for next week. If I can, we're going to have to see how that goes. But thanks very much for listening and watching. Hope you liked today's episode. Don't forget to check out our Soli content. Come to Telegram, Discord, come and have a chat with me. And I will talk to you guys later.